The International Center for Investigative Reporting is an independent, non-profit media organization that promotes good governance through watchdog journalism. It does this by building investigative stroke data journalism capacity for journalists across newsrooms in Nigeria and beyond. The organization is celebrating its 10th year anniversary, and as part of the occasion, it's hosting a conference on media sustainability. We have joining us in the studio the managing editor of ICIR, Mr. Ajibola Amsat. He's in the studio to give us more on this. You're welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much, Stella. Thank you very much, Yusuf, for inviting us. Thank you.
And congratulations, 10th year anniversary.
Yeah, 10th year. 1 decade gone already. Thank you very much.
Well, I mean, you've seen it all. The Nigeria's democracy itself, it's about half of that. I mean, it's like 23 years now of democracy in the Fourth Republic and all of that. How's the journey been for your platform operating within this dispensation?
Yeah, Yusuf, thank you very, very much. As you rightly said, the present republic started in 1999. The ICR only came on stream about a decade later. We started in 2010. Actually, we got registered in 2010, and we started operation in 2012, so 2 years after. And the experience of the International Center for Investigative Reporting is not different from the experience of many media organizations, like Daily Trust. It has been one of a cat and mouse relationship with the government, because the media will always want to hold the government to account. I mean, Section 22 of the Nigerian Constitution gives us that mandate to always hold the government to account. And the people in power, they always try to, cover up those things that they do not want people to do, whereas the media is trying to uncover what the government is trying to cover. So that's, creates some kind of cat and mouse relationship. And it has been like that since 1999. But we're surviving, we're still here.
Okay, I was just thinking, you're talking media sustainability.
Right.
So it was a good thing you're talking about cat and mouse.
Yeah.
You want to hold those in authority to account, but you also need to exist.
Yeah.
So there's always that line. How do you manage that?
So, in fact, it's one of the reasons why we are calling for this conference, because it's very important for all the media chiefs, the entrepreneurs, the practitioners come together to really think about how do you survive in an environment that is trying to report the people who are also supposed to be your patronizers. You need government as your partner. You need the business community as your partner for you to survive as business. But you also need to report these institutions of democracy to the people, because people also need to know what is going on in the government. For instance, the idea of democracy is that it is a people's government. People need to know. So the representative of the people are those ones in government, and whatever they do, they have to report back to the people. So people deserve to know whatever you are doing. And that's the role that the media has been playing, or the media should be playing. But the media also needs to exist. You need to take care of the operating costs. You need to pay for your staff. You need to pay for your infrastructures. You need to pay for every other utilities that you use in order to survive. And you need to go back to the market to go and get this money. So that takes you to those business community you are reporting that corruption is happening under your watch. That goes to the government officials who, from time to time also advertise in your platform. You report about corruption that is going on under their watch. So it's a very tricky situation for the media. So you have to make up your mind. What do you do at this point in time? Whom do you exist for? The media exists for the public, because there shouldn't be a media in the first place if the public is not there. So your first constituency is the public. And that is why we are trying to say that, can we take the business back to the public? That how do we make public pay for quality journalism? Because the report is for them. So how do you ensure that people pay for what they are reading?
Exactly. But talking about that, talking about people paying for what they read, something very important here is trust. Uh, do you see the Nigerian public as the, a people that have trust on media, and whether they own or they see it as though the job of the journalist is to them? Do they see it as such? Because I've had to, in the course of the job, sometimes find myself in the middle, where your job, is for in the interest of the public, but you find out that sometimes you're trying to do something in the interest of the public, but the public does not seem to be in your support, and all of that. So, have you had such experiences in the course of your dealings?
Yeah, I think there was a recent report. I've forgotten the people who put that report together now, but I was part of the conversation where we were discussing the trust in the media. And I think the rating Nigeria got was pretty low. But it's not only Nigeria, even the US. I mean, the rate of media trust has even come down, even in the US. I think the only continent that had some kind of very high rating in terms of the media trust, and that was in Europe. So, but the point I'm making is that the question of trust, it's very, very critical at the moment. It is very true, as you put it. The trust that Nigerian people have in the media today has really come down. And you're going to understand this thing better when you realize that before the 1999 return to civil rule, people tend to trust, media much more then, because it was the military government. People were reporting without minding whose horse is God. But the very moment we had democracy, the politicians are smarter. They were able to reach out to different newsrooms and take the best of mind in different newsrooms to be their media managers. And these are the people who spin stories, across all platforms, in TV stations, in newspaper publication houses. You have spin doctors, constructing different stories. And the public are not dumb. They also know that when you are given the kind of information that does not resonate with them, well, we don't hear our voices in the stories that we read. When the faces that we see on the front page of the newspapers are the faces of the ruling elite, day in, day out, they begin to understand that this is not our stories. Because people have stories. Many people have stories. Regardless of your station in the society, you have stories. But if my story is not being reflected in the media, then I begin to ask, where is my story here? And if my story is not here, why should I read this newspaper? Why should I watch this program on TV? The issue being discussed is about issues that concern some other groups. So the question of media trust is very, very important. And I don't think we are addressing it well enough. And that's part of the reason why we're having this conversation. Because we are going to build a very strong media business. We need to be able to get the trust of the people back. Until we do that, we're not in business.
Okay, I know that for ICIR, most of your stories are investigative stories. As a matter of fact, you train journalists on investigative journalism.
Correct.
And at the Daily Trust, we have been beaten several times for carrying certain investigative stories. As a matter of fact, we have advertisers who have had to pull their adverts because we did a story, about their organizations and all of that. How do you manage that?
So we are very lucky, in the last 10 years, because we operated as a non-profit newsroom. In the last 10 years, that's how we've been operating. So what that means is that we don't rely so much on advertisers for our revenue. Most of our funding actually comes from, donors, outside Nigeria, not even Nigeria. So that made it possible for us to do the kind of hard-hitting stories that we did for several years. But now we are also thinking of going into the business. We are trying to set up, a media business because the donor support is not going to last forever. There is this thing called donors fatigue. Donors also get fatigue. They move on from media to other business. So if they are not funding your newsroom, how do you survive? So we are also thinking about how do we survive? And that takes me back to the question of perhaps the biggest supporters that you need to cultivate are your readers, the public. If you try as much as possible to offer the kind of stories that people would want to read, maybe you can begin to negotiate. But I also understand.
I agree with you that the biggest group that you should cultivate are the people, the readers. However, there are some policies of government that affect media business in Nigeria. For instance, exchange rate.
Yeah.
Look at the newsprints today. They are
Yeah.
not manufactured in Nigeria.
Yeah.
They are all imported.
Yeah.
And you know what the exchange rate
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
So we also, whether we like it or not, need the government because some of their policies actually affect media business, right?
It does. It does. I mean, you're very right. I mean, I was speaking to a senior colleague a couple of days ago, and he was saying that, look, the cost of diesel to power their news organization is about 40 million naira every month. And it's going to get higher because now the news just broke today that there's going to be higher,
In pump price
and all
increment
that.
and God
So
knows
that means
what
that
else.
we're likely to be buying diesel around 800 to 900, maybe even 1,000.
It's about 850 right now as of today.
So we should be looking at 1,000 very soon. So how does that impact the media business? That is one question. And you raised the question of the print. Yes, I'm also aware that most Nigerian news organizations get their print from Sweden, and you have to even pre-order before you could be able to get it into the country. So all those things can be affected by the government policy. If government is very interested, they can take decisions that can help mitigate them. So I understand that. But the point I'm making is that if you are creating a business, you have to think of the market. And where is your market? The market is the people. So if you're able to get a lot of your money from the people, then you can be in the business. Government will always be government. And in fact, the reason why we are at this point today is because the Nigerian government choose to be the way they are. So you cannot, change much from that perspective, but you can also, change your home business model to make sure that you do business in a way that's going to be profitable to you. And that means taking care of your primary constituency.
All right. Well, another fundamental issue that I feel, should be a point of conversation here is finding the balance.
Correct.
For the media organization. There are times you do a story that is in the interest of the general public, indeed, but again, you are trying to make sure that you represent a true story as it is. But sometimes people have a certain sentiment. They have a certain bias attached to certain things. And the truth sometimes doesn't necessarily go down well with members of the public. And sometimes you may even run the risk of being on the side of government, even though that's the reality, of things. So how do you, find the balance, ensuring that people see the truth as it is without feeling that, someone is, being a megaphone for the government or something?
Okay, so Yusuf, I think the way to also understand
My co-anchor is actually Ayuba.
Ayuba, oh, sorry. Okay, I'm sorry, Ayuba. Ayuba, you see, the thing is this. We need to first of all understand the mission of journalism. What is the mission of journalism? Our mission is to make sure that we seek truth all the time. And we try to report the truth that we seek to the people. That's our mission. Whether people are now comfortable with the truth that you're reporting or not, that's a separate issue. But you have a job to do. And your job is to make sure that every day of your life, you go out there, look for the truth. Now, somebody's going to ask, so what is the truth? And that's a philosophical question. But you can answer the question this way, that, look, there is no absolute truth in journalism. I mean, that's a philosophical question. But there's a journalistic truth. the journalistic truth is I gather all the facts that I could gather, and I provide all the context that are attached to that fact, and I report it as I find it. It does not mean that it might not be different from your truth. If I am looking at this point, this is what I am seeing. I'm not seeing here, right? So somebody who is seeing here say, this is the way the world looks. And I am saying, this is the way the world looks, because that is what I'm seeing. So that's why journalists are expected to, check all the facts around, look at all the corners of the room, and reflect that fact, and provide the context. If you're able to do that, you have done your own job as a journalist. You have reported the truth. Whether somebody now agrees with that truth, it's a different kettle of fish. And I'll give you an example. We just returned from Ekiti, where we covered the election. And the truth we saw on the ground was that people were actually in support of a particular candidate because of the way they were talking about it. And that was what we reported. But that truth did not resonate with some other group. What do? You just move on. And you can't stop people's interpretation. People would always have their own interpretation. No matter how well you try to do your research, no matter how hard you try to put all your facts together, and no matter how diligent you do in reporting all this thing and publish it, people are still going to come with their own interpretation. Interpretation that is shaped by their own bias. And you don't have control over that as a journalist.
Okay, Amzat, in all of this, going to the people to pay for good journalism,
Great.
how do you explain the social media factor in all of this? Because you see Nigerians, they run with social media stories. They see the sensational stories. The stories are not confirmed, no, it's not balanced, but they run with it. Do you really believe that these same Nigerians that run for these sensational stories want to pay for good investigative journalism?
Yeah, the question you are asking, reflect the expression of a colleague that was speaking to us on a program yesterday. The guy is a journalist from Panama, and he was telling the story of Panama that was so similar with the story of Nigeria. That, hey, the people of Panama are not interested in political story, how they are going to choose their leaders, how the economy is going to shape up. They are not interested in that kind of story. They are interested in stories about entertainment, about footballs, and they go to social media to go and get all this kind of information. They are not coming to our platform, and that's why media is not a sustainable business in Panama. I said, you know what? You are just telling the story of Nigeria. That also in Nigeria, a lot of citizens run to social media to go and get their information. But the way I captured this thing the other time was that, look, people who go to the social media are probably those ones who are preferring to eat the fast food to the organic food. If you want fast food, you go to the social media.
I like that comparison.
You go to the social media to go and get your information that are not verified, information that are not tested, information that are not pure enough to help you make very important decisions about your life. That is what you most often find in the social media. But if you go to the critical platform that reports news critically, what you are seeking is organic food, the kind of information that is going to enrich your life in different areas. And that's where I always try to explain to people who try to ask, what is the value of a news platform when I can go to Facebook, when I can go to Twitter, when I can go to Instagram to go and get. But again, we also need to understand that the existence of social media can also help us to propagate the kind of truth that we are selling. And the media houses also need to understand how to use this platform in order to, add value to our content. So it is not entirely bad. It's just that some people who are the purveyors of misinformations are very good at using social media. And therefore, the newsroom that are doing very important story also need to be very, very smart on how to use those social media, because we can use it, to our own advantage.
All right. Now, in what ways do you think that journalists can actually diversify themselves in the changing times? A lot of dynamics are coming into play, it looks like the pattern of consumption is changing. We give an example with the social media space and all of that. So, investigative journalists, be it radio, TV, and all of that, how can they be, position themselves in such a way that they remain relevant?
Yeah, thank you very much, Ayuba. And that is a question that we're seeking answer to at the conference tomorrow. That's why we are bringing all the eggheads, all the media chief, all the practitioners to come and discuss this idea, especially as it relates to the Nigerian market. Because we cannot continue to do our business the way we are doing it and hope we are going to be around maybe for another 10 years. I just mentioned about the cost of diesel that is rising. I don't know how long Daily Trust will be able to afford to pay 1,000 for a liter of diesel. I don't know how long. I know you guys have deep pockets, but for some small news organization, I doubt whether they will be able to do that. And that's why a lot of people are probably moving to digital platform now to, sell their. I understand that almost all the media houses now are now having digital platform, and that's one way of doing it. We also need to find a way of. You talk about diversification. It's very, very important we start looking at what other things can we do. There are several services that people are offering today that these are the services that are supposed to be offered by the media houses. You have somebody who is probably giving information about where to sell cars. If you want to buy cars now, there's a particular platform that you go to, and then you sell your car and buy your cars. People who are setting up all these kind of platforms are not media people. What stops a media organization from having a platform like that? There are different platforms. I read about a platform where now you can seek for, artisans. If you're looking for artisans to help you fix your plumbing works at home, do all kinds of painting or whatever, you go to that platform and then you get, and then that platform gets commission from the activities that happen on that platform. Those are the kind of platform that the media houses should be setting up. I was reading about NASPA. NASPA is a South African media organization. In 2020, the year of COVID, NASPA was doing $20 billion profit. I was saying, how did that happen? A media company in Africa doing $20 billion profit in the year of COVID. So I was interested. I was reading more about NASPA, and then I got to know that NASPA was into different kinds of media products. They have up to like 5 magazines. They have newspapers. They are the owner of News 24, the biggest publishers in Africa. So they have all kinds of, operations, media operations, and they have investment even in business outside South Africa. For me, that is how media business should be thinking if you want to really, survive. Otherwise, we'll just be crying foul all the time.
All right, so let's just give you a minute before we round up to give more details about this conference that is coming up.
Thank you very much. So this conference is put together by the International Center for Investigative Reporting, and it's going to be in celebrations of our 10th year anniversary. Like I mentioned, we started the operation in 2012, and as we are celebrating our 10th year, we feel that what is the most important issues in our industry that we should be, having conversation about. And we think that it's about the issue of media sustainability. And that's why we are bringing people across all the media industry to come and talk about this. The choice of Mr. Seppo Maloli, who is a lead speaker, who is going to be leading a conversation tomorrow, the choice was informed by the information I gave earlier. The South Africa is the only African country that is doing much better than any other African countries today in terms of the media business. And he is a media mogul in South Africa. He is a man who has a lot of experience about how to manage media business. And that's why we are bringing Mr. Seppo Maloli to come and be our lead speaker tomorrow. But he is not going to be the only one. We have the likes of other, big media chiefs in Nigeria, like the owners of Arise TV and This Day TV, Mr. Nduka Bagbina, and of course the chairman here, Mr.
Kabiru Yusuf.
Kabiru Yusuf, is also going to be there. We also have some media scholars who are going to be part of that conversation, like Professor Ndizika Ogwezi, who was the former head
Okay,
of.
can you talk about the date, time, venue, and the duration?
So the time is going to be Wednesday, June 22. We are starting at 10 o'clock tomorrow, and it's going to last up to 3 p.m. in the afternoon.
All right.
And it's going to hold at Nikon Noga Hotel.
All right. All right, then. Thank
It's
you
not
so
Trasco
much.
Hilton, right?
Yeah, Hilton, yeah.
Thank you so much, then, for joining us on Daybreak to talk about this. We look forward to engaging further and also attending this conference you talk about.